Welcome to this Fractal Steampunk tutorial. I'm Jim, also known as Viperbane. This tutorial we will be doing today will require you to download Chaotica, which is a fractal image maker that is available for free. You can download it by following the URL that is up here. I have also put a link down in the description. Once we have used Chaotica to create a few images, we will be taking them into After Effects and make a little bit more of a motion graphics, bit like you saw in the beginning of this tutorial. Right, so as soon as you downloaded the program, you can download it for Mac, for Windows, for Linux, and you can use this size. I think is up to 1.23 megabits, and we will see what that means as soon as we start this program up. So as soon as you install Chaotica, start it up, and you will be presented with the parameter browser. This one we will be using a little bit later on. You can find it down here in the new random worlds, but for the time being we will be skipping this bit. We will instead go in to browse examples, and this free version of Chaotica only gives you a few certain examples. These grayed out ones here are showcasing images that are larger than your license is giving you free access to. As you can see, they're rendering up after a while, and it is because they're being rendered through the program. The parameters are already stored within there. I'll be choosing this example here, as you may recognize from the intro to this video. Feel free to use any other example that you think you can do something with following this very tutorial. So click on this one and you will get the warning saying the maximum resolution isn't permitted. Just click OK, you will still get the image rendered up in the background. Now, depending on how fast your computer is, you may need to wait a little bit, because Chaotica is really rendering and drawing the image as we speak. And you can see that it's been rendering for 15 seconds at this very moment. Don't worry too much about this. As soon as you think you have a good enough copy, just go up to File and Save Image. Preferably you choose to save your image to some location that you can remember. I've already set this up, so I'm going to name this one Background, because we will be keeping this one in the back. And of course I need to spell. So background, and here we go. Now that's the first image. Then we need to create a few other things. And if you go down here to the new random worlds, you see you have a few parameters: maximum iterators and minimum iterators. I'm not sure really about the pronunciation, so do feel free to correct me in the comments below. I went to adjust the settings from 2 to 21. And depending on these iterators, you get different drawings and different densities in the image. So if I'm clicking on this one, you'll see now that it'll render up new versions for me. Just keep clicking until you think you've found something really nice. And what we're looking for in this time is a starry field. Something that has more dots and a little bit of shadows than these really big blurry images. It may take you a while to find something that you really like, or something that you're quite keen on. There are more methods of getting these out, but you're pretty soon going to find that you have something really nice. As you see here, it took me about 5 attempts to find this. Don't worry about the image being too grainy, because we can sort this out with these down here. So you see you get different versions, and when you find something you think, ah, that's the one, that's just perfect, that's just what I'm looking for, just click on that one and the image will redraw itself to that selection. I think we found a really good one as it is. This one might be slightly better for what we're looking for. We're looking for a starry field this time. And this looks starry enough. You can also continue doing shaders, and it does a different kind of coloration to it, so sort of a color correction of tint going on above this. As long as you're satisfied with what you have, just leave it be as it is, and then go on. As soon as you have found what you're looking for, click on it, let it render out. Now you can play up on this side as well, and this is something most of you should be familiar with. and playing with the curves to really make things stand out or tone them down a little bit. I think this is, for this example, quite a good image. It will be a little bit clustered, but we can adjust that later on when we're in After Effects. So take this one and save this image. Oh, I forgot myself. We need to check one little thing because we don't want to have to sit and erase all this blackness unnecessarily. So check this one, save alpha, and that means that it will take away all the blackness in the image, the zero value of the colors. So save the image and you will now have it as a PNG rather than the JPEG that we got our background in. So save this one as stars. And then let's go look for another one. We want something that is a little bit more cloudy, like sweeping clouds this time. So let's lower the max iterators or iterators. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of comments about that. So let's lower it down to about 9. As you can see here, top right corner is really sweepy and nice. I think I will go with this one in the interest of keeping this tutorial down in size. Do not know yet really how long this tutorial will be, so I'm trying to keep it quite fast. Do let me know if you think I can elaborate a little bit more. So now we have a nice sweeping image here. I think we need to adjust the colors on this a little bit. So that's really nice and bright. That's a bit too bright perhaps, so let's keep it right about there so we have a little bit of flares. Lower the midtones and the low tones. There we go. If you wish, you can change the colors by going in on the palette and we'll generate different colors for you. So if you have a different kind of theme or different kind of mood in mind, remember you can go in on the palette. Change the number of color nodes and you will get different variations. I find that the default settings on this program is really well. So let's try this one. Same thing here. We have the save alpha. So we go save image. Go down to pictures, go to our folders of Fractal Steampunk. And then we call this sweeping cloud. All good and done there. Nope, we'll quit that program and then we'll open up After Effects. Now, when you get into After Effects, some people choose to go for a 1080p, 720p. As long as you have a decent resolution, you don't have to worry about following the size I have here. All the methods are quite simple and pretty much the same for whatever resolution you will choose. So start with a new composition. In my case, I will do the 1920 times 1080p. I have a big screen. Then just go to your folder where you save the Fractal generated images. You'll have the background, the stars, and the sweeping clouds. So let's begin with the background. As you can see, for me, the size isn't really matching up. So what I'll do is I'm resizing a little bit, and I'll intentionally resize it slightly bigger than what my viewport is. You can decide to choose it just that bit, or like this. And if you have a smaller resolution, you may need to shrink it a little bit, but just make sure that you have it a little bit outside so that when you later on shrink it down, you will be able to use some space without starting to have the border come in. So I'll save it about that size. Right. Move on to the sweeping clouds. We're going to have them in the background behind our stars that we will be applying quite soon. As you can see, this one is also too small, so adjust the size that you feel you want. And I think this somewhere, so slightly larger than I did the background. Just leave it be there, and if you think it's starting to get a little bit too cluttery, you can turn off the layer. You don't need to see it at the moment. You're just resizing and repositioning them. So let's put in the stars. And let's put them above. So here we have the starry fields, and the same issue here. You have to resize a little bit. So I think I have it quite well here. But seeing as the sweeping clouds below this layer is fairly heavy on that side, I'll be going on stars. I will press R for rotation, and if you go 180, then you'll have the stars on the other side. Of course you can choose, if you got a different random generation, you can choose to tilt it, but just so you have a little bit of balance, because we don't want it to be overpowering with the stars. So I'll actually tilt it slightly like this. So 187 tilt on this one, and that should be fine for this moment. So let's duplicate the stars. We have another layer of the star. You press Command or Control D, and then let's duplicate the stars one more time. Now it's getting quite cluttered on this screen, so let's turn this layer off so you don't see them. You don't have to worry about them at this time. So the background layer, we're obviously going to have to resize this one a little bit so we get this motion like the camera is leaving whatever objects there are. So go in and go press S, and you have scale coming up, of course, on the timeline here. And I don't know, some people just do a few short frames. I usually work in 10-second intervals, and that gives you enough time. Even if you're creating a short space, you can move your layers and readjust them in between that 10 seconds. And when it comes time to export, you can obviously export from the frame you want and to the end frame you want. Obviously, if you're working with editors and filmmakers and directors and everything, it's always good to have 1 or 2 seconds in front and 1 or 2 seconds at the end for the final export that they can use, so they can time the entire project and your clip and your specific part of this project into the clip. Some need to start in the middle of something, and you have created this fantastic animation or drawing or special effects, 3D rendering, and your movement when you start a clip isn't matching up with what they need. Sometimes they need to start halfway through your animation. And I know it's your creative project and everything, but in the end it's their final project. They have the overall view, and you've only seen the tiny little portion that you have. So from my perspective, I'm always using a 10-second bulk, even if I'm just making 2 or 3 second snippets. In this particular case, we'll actually be using the full 10 seconds because there is nothing that's going to be attached to the beginning or to the end of this beyond this tutorial. So let's keyframe it here in the beginning. Sorry for the long rant there, but let's keyframe it. Drag the timeline all the way to the end. And now you can choose what scale you want. And you can choose 2 modes here. I was experimenting around by unlinking, but I find the uniform size of this work quite well. So I'm dragging it down almost to the edge. So not entirely, but just almost. Then obviously when you render, you get the ever so slightly, it's a slow movement moving away. As you can see here, the rendering is pretty quickly. It's not that heavy on your computer, although I have a fairly decent system with a solid state drive. So if you have a normal hard drive, please bear in mind that it might take you 10-20 more seconds to do this. Right, so we have the movement pre-rendered here, and the background is slowly scrolling in. So let's begin working on the stars field now, or the sweeping cloud, sorry. This one, I have a plan to make it rotate. So as it is at the moment, it's just an overlay. We will be adjusting that ever so slightly soon. So let's begin with selecting the sweeping cloud and press R, and you get the rotation coming up. And see, you can do the hill. Obviously we're gonna get the rough edges, so the size might not be entirely correct, but we can still work within the size we have previously. So the size you chose from the beginning needs to sort of match up with the cloud layer that you do have. So I'm actually happy with this size, so I'll be taking it all the way here. So this will be where it starts. You don't see the lines, and then I will tilt it slowly to the left or counterclockwise and let it slowly move during the entire 10 seconds of this. So create a keyframe, go all the way to the end, and then tilt it until you think, well, that's good. You get a little bit of movement in the bottom, and that sort of works. That's adding a line. So now you have a fairly decent placement here. Obviously I do not know how your cloud layer, how your sweeping cloud layer looks like. If you're lucky enough to have it all in the center, you can obviously rotate a lot more and do some magic with it. Now we have these two layers sorted out. So when I'm playing, you'll see you get the slow escape of the background and the slow tilt of these clouds. I don't need to render full here for you to see it, but you get the idea when the cloud is moving around, what it's going to look like. So let's deal with the star layers. This is a pretty quick tutorial, so I do hope that I'm not going too fast for you. So let's begin with the first layer here, and we duplicated all three layers so that they look at this very moment all the same. Well, let's begin with layer 1 here, and I'm going to use this one and change the scale. And I'm actually going to bring the scale from this up, and I'm going to move it up so it appears to be moving forward as towards you, the one with the camera. So hit the keyframe, drag all the way to the end, and then now it's time to choose a size. Some people go through this and they pre-select a good size, a good way so that you can do it, so they have pre-entered numbers. I find it's easier if you work on a hunch so you see how it looks like. If you see at this end, the cluster to the right looks very, very strong. So if I'm moving that either out, or I'm just moving it ever so slowly and keeping it here, I have two different methods to work with. So if you see this now, the cloud is not on there, but the stars are, as they are moving toward the camera or appearing to move toward the camera, the background is moving away, and you get a sense of depth in this. So if you watch the full run here now, the pre-render, you'll see when it moves slightly faster. We're going to adjust the blend mode of these layers toward the end of this, but at this moment, since you're working with transparency layers, it's kind of good to see how they are without your adjustment, so you're not tempted to mix or readjust something. So now you see the effect here that we're working toward. So let's turn more layers on. The second layer, and we can turn this layer off. This layer we want to move with the background, but we're going to have it move slightly faster than the background is moving away from the camera, so it seems that the stars are falling into the falling image. So press S to get scale up again, hit keyframe at the beginning, move toward the end. So obviously you see now the background, how fast that one is moving. So we need to move slightly faster. And this time don't worry about the edges, since it's a starry field, it will not be as notable. So we're not going to go too far in because I can see some edges. So there you go. That seems to be a fairly decent speed. It should be falling slightly faster than the background. So let's see if we do render here. And you see the background is disappearing, but the stars are falling just slightly faster. And mind you that the star field is looking the same, so it's going to be one star field moving forward, one star field falling backwards. If you're really creative and really efficient, you can rotate this layer and make it look like there are more stars and different clusters and different clouds. But I'm showing you a quick way of using Chaotica with this. So, final and last layer. Let's see what we can do with this. It has the same start, but I would say on this one, let's work with the scale in a completely different way. So take this link, this chain off here. This chain means that you're resizing both axes at the same time. This time we want to be able to compress or stretch or twist in a different order, so it's not matching up with the other stars, so it gives a different sort of movement. We're not going to do much with this. We're also going to change rotation on this, so we have something that disrupts the folding up and folding back star layers that we have worked on previously. We have set them so one folds faster than the background is falling and one is moving toward the camera. This one is going to cause a little bit of distraction. Now, we did the cloud layer moving counterclockwise, so we're going to have this layer moving clockwise. So first we change the scales a little bit, and we're not going to change them much. So we have set key point here, or a keyframe, and when we reach this level we're going to go in ever so slightly, and I think for this it works if we're compressing it a little bit. So we do about that for this. Then we press this layer again, and you go on rotation, you press R. So let's press the keyframe at the beginning, and then we move all the way to the end. Now we choose a different rotation, and we follow this way. So the stars here are falling down a little bit. As I said, we have the clouds moving one way, so we're moving these stars another way. So there's a lot of motions going on, sort of distracting the eyes from the pattern, from the fractal images that there are. Now, once you've done this, you have the 4 different layers moving in different directions, creating a sense of depth. You can turn them all on and give them a pre-go, but you can see this is going to be very cluttery and really not that pretty as it should be. So that's because we haven't changed the blend modes yet, but you get the idea of the motion here. You see where the different layers are going. As you see these different layers, remind you, before you do the change of the blend mode here, you may want to check this through first so that you're happy with the way they move. As I said, it's quite easy to get distracted once you change the blend modes of these. Well, let's go down to the sweeping clouds, and we're going to change this to soft light. And if you don't see these and you're sitting on a PC, you have to press F4, I believe it is, so you change the modes and the track mattes. It could be this box over here that you change spaces with. On a Mac it should be function F4 to get this one to come up, but I'll let you defer to your own manual there so you can see what it is you're supposed to do. The star layers, you want to change them all to lighten, so it's not punching through that much. You get a different tonation, different coloration of the background when you do this. So now we have, you see, a clearer view in on this field, and now it starts to get heavy. We haven't really used any of the After Effects own functions, but you're starting to get an idea of what we did in the beginning. So this is really all you need to do with this tutorial. As I showed you, I just picked pretty much the first layers that came up to me. But take your time, explore Chaotica. It's a really nice Fractal program, and you can get some really nice images and really nice functions. And once you have found the image you want to, this is a very easy and very quick way of getting a really nice effect going. And if you, like me, like to do tutorials and like to show other people how to do them, it's a quick way of finding tutorials or ideas to do it. So if you even want to change this from this layer, if you got, like me, really heavy clusters, you can change the opacity of the layers. So we have the first star layer. You press T. T stands for transparency, but it means opacity. And let's reduce this to, say, 42 is a good number. You see we removed a lot of this. Let's go to the sweeping cloud as well and remove a little bit of the density of this. So press T to get the opacity to come up. Do not press the keyframe, because that means you will get keyframe for wherever you are. If you don't only want the opacity control for the entire layer, enter the value and then keyframe later on. So let's have this quite substantial. So let's go 85 with this. We get slightly less toning on it. And if you want to do multiple layers at once, just select the layers you want to do and press the function you want to get into. So I've selected the top 2 stars layers, and I'll press T and I get opacity up for both of them. Let's do this one to 55, so it has a different layer. And as you see, because I had both selected, both layers get to do their bit. But I want this one, the top layer, the one that actually rotates, I want it slightly stronger than the others. So do 67. So it's 2/3 strength on that level. It's half strength on the layer sinking into the image, and the stars moving forward towards you at the camera are just 4/10. So it's just 42%. I like the number. I usually try to work around that whenever I do experiments in After Effects and Photoshop. It doesn't always work, but I just like it. I'm just built that way. So let's try and see how this rendering goes out here. And as you see, there are no real special effects done. It's just bringing the images in and working with them in the blend mode. It's a really nice and simple thing to do, and it looks really great. I'll look at this rendering here, and you should see that this is getting close to what we had in the beginning. Feel free to experiment once you have reached this level. You can do adjustment layers, you can add vignettes if you want to bring the corners in a little bit, if you want to focus on certain areas. And if you have plugins like Video Copilot's optical flares, you can do a few star explosions. So let's say that these are galaxies moving, you can add a few flashes here and there. But I'll let you get onto that and build on from this. This is, as I said, a really simple and easy thing to do. It looks really great, and if you feel that you want to expand on this, you can really go into Photoshop and cut out these circles and make them move. And you can work with the ramp generator here in After Effects and create that cloudy layer that gives you a little bit noise. And if you work with the evolution bit of it, you can actually make it look like different parts of this crawls. And you can even make these round planets, if you like, make them rotate individually. You can do that through masking or anything. The ideas are endless when you do something like this, but all I wanted to show was really a good start for you to build an image, a moving image that brings something out for you. And I hope you like this tutorial, so please subscribe, like, comment. Please tell me what you want to see next, if there's anything I can help with. And I don't mind asking questions, asking and receiving questions, so please feel free to subscribe and get in touch with me. Remember to visit my website and also check me out on Facebook. See you next time!